Let me start here. If you've been feeling disconnected, unwanted, invisible, it might not be because you're weak. It might be because the way you're trying to handle loneliness is quietly making it worse. A lot of men think loneliness is just being alone, but the version that ruins men isn't silence. It's feeling unseen while you're still functioning, still working, still smiling, still showing up. And that's the dangerous part, because when you can operate while you're empty, nobody notices. And after a while, you stop noticing too. Today, we're going to break down what loneliness actually is for men, what it does to your decisions, and how to rebuild yourself without turning into a desperate version of you. Not hype, not motivation, just real psychology for real men. One, loneliness isn't silence. It's invisibility. Most men assume loneliness hits when you're in an empty room at night. But loneliness hits hardest when you're surrounded by people who don't know you. It's when you're at work cracking jokes, but nobody knows you stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m. feeling heavy for no reason. It's when you're with friends, but you're only allowed to be the fun version of you. It's when you're dating someone who likes you, but she doesn't know what actually keeps you up at night. That's not solitude. That's invisibility. And men don't talk about invisibility because you were trained early to be fine. You take the punches, you solve your own problems, you stay composed, and when you hide everything, people can't connect to you, even the ones who would have cared. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone asked, "Are you okay?" And you told the truth? Most men answer with the same script. "Yeah, I'm good." But inside, you're exhausted. You're stretched thin. You're carrying things quietly. And when nobody sees you, you start pulling back. You stop reaching out. You stop initiating. You stop expecting warmth. Loneliness doesn't always mean you're alone. Sometimes it means you're present, but unknown. And here's the painful part. The longer you feel unseen, the more you start believing you don't matter. That belief is not truth. It's loneliness talking. Loneliness doesn't just hurt, it lies. Loneliness isn't being alone. If you've been feeling lonely lately, it might not be because you're alone. It might be because you're unseen. Loneliness hits hardest when you're surrounded by people who don't know the real you. The man who's tired, overwhelmed, carrying pressure quietly. Most men say, "I'm good," because that's what we were trained to say. But when you hide everything, nobody can connect to you, even the people who would care. Loneliness isn't silence, it's invisibility, and the longer you feel unseen, the more you start believing you don't matter. That belief is loneliness talking. 2, loneliness drops your standards and makes you hungry. When a man feels emotionally empty, his standards drop, not because he becomes stupid, because he becomes hungry, and hunger makes you reach for anything that reduces the pain. Fast. This is why lonely men go back to people who hurt them. Not because they truly want them, but because they want relief. You text the ex just to check. You respond to the woman who breadcrumbs you, because at least she's a notification. You keep situationships alive that drain you, because silence feels worse than disrespect. Loneliness whispers, "Just answer her. It'll feel better tonight." And that whisper turns a solid man into an emotional addict, because the goal becomes make the ache stop, not choose what's healthy. Here's the psychological truth. When you're lonely, you don't always crave love. You crave a dopamine hit, a sign that you exist in somebody's mind. But every time you run back to someone who damaged you, you teach your nervous system a brutal lesson. Pain plus attention equals comfort. And that wiring keeps you stuck. So if you've been making choices that don't feel like you, don't only blame your discipline. Look at your loneliness, because a lonely man will accept crumbs just to stop feeling empty. Desperation is just loneliness in a costume. 3. Micro story, the Friday night text. Let me give you a simple micro story. A guy, let's call him Kojo, works hard, he's responsible, he's the reliable one. Friday night comes, his apartment is quiet, the silence is heavy. Not because he has no people, but because nobody truly knows what he's carrying. At 11:47 p.m., his phone lights up. It's a message from a woman who has disrespected him for months. Hot and cold, inconsistent, only shows up when she's bored. The message says, "Hey, you up?" Kojo stares at it. And in his chest, he knows the truth. And he doesn't miss her. He misses warmth. He doesn't want her. He wants to stop feeling empty. So he replies, not because it's right, but because it's relief. And that one reply resets the cycle. That's how loneliness moves. Quiet, not dramatic, just one small decision at a time. This is why loneliness is so dangerous for men. It makes you betray your own standards in secret. 4. Loneliness drains motivation because it steals meaning. Loneliness doesn't just affect who you date, it affects your discipline. When you feel emotionally empty, your brain starts asking, what's the point? Work feels heavier. The gym feels pointless. Your hobbies collect dust. Your goals feel far away. And you start living on autopilot, not because you're lazy, because loneliness is a vacuum. It sucks meaning out of your day. A man needs more than tasks. He needs direction, because when nothing feels meaningful, everything feels harder. And here's the flip that most men never learn. Loneliness can destroy you, or it can forge you. The pain you feel is not always a sign to escape. Sometimes it's feedback that your life needs structure again, not more entertainment, not more attention, structure. If this is landing for you, take a second and subscribe to Male Psychology Skool, not because you need motivation, but because you deserve a space that helps you understand yourself like a man, calmly, clearly, and with respect. And if you've got a brother who's been quiet lately, share this with him. Sometimes one video is the first crack in the silence. 5. Purpose is the antidote, not more people. So a lot of men believe if I just had the right woman, the right friends, the right social life, I wouldn't feel lonely. That's not fully true, because loneliness isn't only caused by lack of people. It's caused by lack of direction. When a man wakes up with no mission, no internal target pulling him forward, he becomes emotionally needy without realizing it. He starts depending on people to fill the crack inside him. But people don't fix that crack. Purpose does. Think of the seasons where you felt strong, not because life was easy, but because you were building something. A goal, a skill, a plan, a body you respected, a future you could see. When a man has purpose, loneliness doesn't always disappear, but it becomes less powerful, because your day has structure. Your actions have meaning. Your identity has direction. And a man with direction stops begging for attention because he's too focused to chase crumbs. Ask yourself this question. What are you building right now that gives your life structure? If the answer is nothing, then your loneliness isn't random. It's predictable. A directionless man doesn't feel lonely. He feels unmoored. Most men think loneliness is fixed by more people, more friends, more dates, more attention, but loneliness isn't only a lack of people. It's often a lack of direction. When you wake up with no mission, no structure, no goal pulling you forward, your mind starts craving people to fill the emptiness. But people don't fix that crack. Purpose does. A man with purpose still has lonely moments, but he's not controlled by them. His day has structure. His identity has direction. And when you have direction, you stop chasing crumbs. 6. You don't need a crowd. You need one real connection. Another lie men believe is more people equals less loneliness. But a crowd can make you feel lonelier than isolation, because being surrounded by people who don't actually know you is emotional starvation disguised as socializing. Many men collect acquaintances, but have nobody they can call when they're breaking. So here's a grounded truth. You don't need 10 people. You need one. One person you can be real with. without performing. That could be one brother, one friend, even one older mentor, someone safe. And if you don't have that person yet, there are two possibilities. One, you're surrounded by the wrong people. Two, or you're showing the world the wrong version of you. Sometimes men say, nobody cares. But the deeper truth is, nobody knows. Start small, one honest sentence to one trusted person, not a trauma dump, not drama, just honesty. Bro, I've been carrying a lot lately. That sentence alone can change your life, because when one person finally sees you, well, loneliness loses power. 7, the final boss, being alone with your thoughts. Now we get to the deepest layer. If you can't stand being alone with your own thoughts, the world will always control you, because then you will need noise. Music always playing. Scrolling until your thumb hurts. Porn, gaming, constant podcasts, endless distractions, not because you enjoy them, but because silence exposes what you've avoided. Silence forces you to face. Mistakes you haven't forgiven yourself for. Dreams you abandoned. Pain you never processed. Insecurities you hide behind, I'm good. And instead of facing it, men run. This is why some men crumble after breakups. Why rejection hits them like identity death. Why they chase validation and collapse when they don't get it. Because their stability isn't built on inner strength, it's built on distraction. Here's the goal. Learn to sit with yourself. Not in a dramatic way, in a calm, masculine way. 10 minutes, no phone, just breath, just presence. Let the discomfort rise, let it speak, let it pass. Because the moment you can be alone without abandoning yourself, you become dangerous in the best way. Not reckless, not cold, just unshakable. When you stop running from yourself, loneliness stops owning you. Stop running from yourself. Most men don't fear being alone. They fear what they'll feel when it gets quiet, so they drown loneliness in noise, scrolling, porn, constant podcasts, distractions. Not because they love it, but because silence exposes what they've avoided. Regret, pain, insecurity, dreams they abandoned. And when you can't sit with yourself, the world controls you. But the moment you learn to be alone without abandoning yourself, you become unshakable, because you stop needing people to rescue you from your own mind. That's real strength. Let me leave you with this. Loneliness isn't a curse. It's feedback. It's your inner system telling you it's time to rebuild from the inside out, not by chasing people, not by numbing yourself, but by becoming solid again. Start with one real connection. Start with purpose and structure. Start with learning to sit in your own presence, and you'll notice something quietly powerful. You won't fear loneliness anymore, because you won't feel abandoned, even when you're alone. If you want more grounded psychology for men, subscribe to Male Psychology Skool. And if you're in a season where you're rebuilding quietly, comment the word rebuild, so you don't feel like you're doing it alone. I'll see you in the next one.